Well, thank you so much for being open to this. And yeah, I just want to say like thank you again for being my first hypnotherapy client because um yeah, it was just like so exciting for me to work with you and the session that we did, like the very first one, I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe that that went so well. It just felt really, really amazing. So yeah, what was your experience with that session? It was so long ago. I'm like trying to remember all the details.
Yeah, it was super powerful for me just because I had a lot of unresolved, I would say, resentment towards some people, and I realized, I was carrying that pain within me to hold on to that. And I, you know, I felt very conscious during the kind of memorized the whole thing. But even though I was in like a very relaxed state, I was still pretty aware. And I didn't realize some of my limiting beliefs that were playing out. And so that kind of opened my eyes to what my limiting beliefs even were around those subjects. And I was able to kind of uncover quite a bit. And it really helped that you record the session so I can go back and, write down my limiting beliefs if I wanted to and burn it or whatever I wanted to do with that information. Specifically towards family dynamics, I have been wanting to forgive them for a long time, and I just didn't really know what the process looked like. And this facilitated me to do that and realize that, these people that hurt me are also hurt people. And there was just like something that you said during the session, something really simple, like it wasn't their fault that this happened. I remember you saying something like that in one of the sessions, and that kind of opened my eyes to realizing that, it's nobody's fault. It's not my fault, nor is it their fault that these things happened in our history, and it's been playing out in so many generations. And to kind of just finally experience that peace within my body. And I felt really kind of high after the session. I felt very just at peace that I can finally say that I have forgiven my parents. And I had no idea that I was holding on to essentially their stuff as my own stuff. And that's what they're doing. They're holding on to their parents' stuff as their own stuff. And it's just been passed on to me and to everybody else. And to just experience that have just been really life transforming for me, because I've been waiting to kind of go do this work with a specific person. And I've gone through other healers, and I just never experienced this amount of healing because I didn't feel safe. And with you, I just felt safe 100%. And I think ultimately that's what was able to facilitate the deep work for me, is the safety that I felt. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for that.
Wow. Wow, what a beautiful testimonial. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I'm so happy that I was able to be that safe person for you to help you do this healing work. And yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing because it was like it was so healing for you in all of those ways that you just mentioned, and like so deep and so transformative, like you said, for you, but like the same in a different way for me, because you gave me that confidence and that like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing feeling, of like, yeah, just having it go so well the first time. So thank you also for that. Yeah. So you mentioned like after the session you felt really high. Like, tell me more about that.
So I can't remember if it was our first or second session. I remember going to the beach and just going in the ocean, even though it was cold, but I just felt this unbelievable, like I was crying out of joy, which, I don't know if I've ever done that, but it felt like the first time because I just don't remember doing that. And I remember just crying and being like so much made sense. And it made me realize just how abundant life actually is without all that I'm carrying. And life is so beautiful when we're actually opened up to it. And I just felt fully centered in all my chakras and fully open. My heart was like beaming. And I remember being in the ocean and just the sun was like hitting the water, and I can't explain it. It felt like I was experiencing sensations on such a high level, and I was able to be fully present in the moment, and it made me feel high. And ultimately I realized that's like the state that we want to be in. And I just and we can cultivate that obviously in our daily life with presence, but when we're carrying all that baggage, then it's kind of hard to access. And then, as I've been healing since then, I've realized, because we had 3 sessions, I'm pretty sure. I've realized I've just been in my head, and that's ultimately what was causing the suffering. Is I was viewing everything through the lens of what happened to me. And once I was able to forgive my parents, I stopped viewing it that way. I was like, okay, even if something triggered me or reminds me of my parents or whatever, I asked myself now, I'm like, okay, is what I'm witnessing actually like my past? Because 99% it's not. These are new people, new experiences, a new environment, and I get to choose how I look at it. And so finally I was able to kind of break that weird thought pattern that I was like trapped in for so long, that just viewing everything as sort of through like a victimhood mentality. And after your session, I was able to essentially, I wouldn't say fully heal my victimhood mentality, but I am able to be aware of it enough to not let it play out and rule my life.
Wow, that's amazing. Honestly, that is
Mm-hmm.
huge. I guess that's the transformative, or part of the way that you've like transformed since then. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. So peaceful.
Yeah, to have that awareness now moving forward, to be able to like see that that's what you were doing, and then to stop it from happening again. Wow, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear this feedback, because these are things that I wouldn't have thought of, that would be happening for people. So, because we've never talked about this specific thing before. So it's just really cool to hear that there's so much more happening than just what we do, even in the session, because it's like it continues afterward. And yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah, it really does continue. And I feel like after the session, there's this kind of processing that happens, processing the session and then implementing what we learned and calling in something new, essentially. Because I wasn't gonna go back to like hating on my parents.
Right.
I'm like, just have that session for no reason.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, essentially mean having them back in my life because everyone's journey is different when it comes to that. But it means just having that peace within my heart that I do have tremendous amounts of love for them, compassion, and it's doing this type of work that I'm able to reach them like, oh, like I'm playing out similar patterns as them, and I have to forgive myself for showing up in these ways, so why wouldn't I forgive them? And it does not mean, inviting them back and maybe it will happen one day, but this session is primarily to kind of for me to just step in my power and like not go back into this resentment essentially that it just is such a block to creativity when we're holding on to that and so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's beautiful that you're able to like, because it's like it doesn't even matter if they are aware of what they are doing or what they're, the cause of them doing whatever they're doing. They don't even have to know. It's like all in your hands to be like, I know, and I can move forward in a positive way, regardless of whatever they're gonna do from here on. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
What,
thank you.
you're so welcome. What was there anything that you wished was different about the sessions or that you didn't like or that yeah, anything in that way?
I wouldn't say anything different. I didn't even have the idea of the sessions being recorded, but you had told me that was going to happen. So that was actually really relieving to hear. And if that didn't happen, then that's what I would say. But you did provide that. So it actually gave me a lot more openness to be able to be willing to do hypnotherapy because there's all these like crazy beliefs about hypnotherapy and I've also heard a lot of benefits from people, breaking addictions with hypno and I did my own research on it and stuff, but ultimately like my intention with it was to heal my trauma and I think intention is very important as well and it just gave me this relaxation to know that I can go back and listen to it um, since it is a hypnotherapy, it's you are being hypnotized in a relaxed state. And I'm not sure if everyone has the same experience of being so aware when they're hypnotized, but I just felt completely aware of what was happening and and the only thing I felt I was in such a relaxed state that my body was like I it didn't feel I didn't really try, but I didn't feel like I could move because I was so relaxed.
Mhm.
And that was the only that was I would consider feeling like it was a hypnotist experience. But as far as just feeling like, oh, like this person's gonna I'm not going to be aware of anything that's happening. It's like I actually was fully aware the whole time, and it was so nice to have that recording because I have gone back to it and taken notes, and that has helped too.
Nice. That's awesome. I didn't know that you had done that, and I don't know if anybody else has, because nobody else has ever told me that they've gone back and listened to it. So that's really cool that you actually use that. That's awesome. And I never thought about it that way of like, it's also like an ease of mind for people to know that I'm recording it because I'm not doing any weird shit, you know? It's like a safety net or something to be like, yeah, I'm actually recording everything that I'm saying too, and so that you know exactly what I'm doing. um so yeah. Um what was like your favorite part of the sessions, or yeah, do you have anything to say about that? Like what was the best thing for you?
Honestly, I hope the video is not cutting out, but I honestly, for me, it was just realizing what those beliefs are. And one thing about being aware during the session, I'm not aware enough to realize that, like, oh, I'm gonna memorize all of this when the session's done. Because when the session was done, I was like, that's why I went back to the recording, because I was like, okay, what were my limiting beliefs? Because I actually find that information super valuable in the healing work, that I'm accountable for the healing, and there's no one out there to save me or something. Like, I'm doing the work. Like, I want to know. Having that come out, all my limiting beliefs, I was like, oh my gosh, this is pretty wild to know. And my other favorite part was you had asked very good questions during it. And one of them was, what do you think you taught your parents in this dynamic? What you were born into this life to teach them something. What do you think that is? Something along those lines. And that was just so helpful, because I was like, I sound so self-centered to have never thought of that about that, but I never thought about that. I have never put myself in their shoes and been like, okay, what is my purpose in their life? Why? Maybe I did trigger them in some ways. And what is my purpose in this life? Why did I call these parents in? And it just made me realize the bigger picture of this life, of, you know, I chose this because I'm choosing this path. I would have never in my entire life probably have chosen this path if I didn't have those parents. So I have this gratitude, and I have to just honor them for bringing me here, and no matter how that looks like. And so all the questions you had asked during the session was ultimately able to help me see the bigger picture.
Mm. Oh, wow, that's so beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing everything that you've shared about your sessions and about your experience. And I really appreciate you being open to doing this and taking the time to do this with me. And if there's any last thing that you could say to somebody who's like thinking about doing this work as like an encouraging thing, what would you tell them?
I would say you have really nothing to lose, because, I mean, it's a safe space. So you can just experience it, for just have the intention of experiencing something that could be very beneficial to your future. And I mean, that's why I've tried so many different modalities, and this has just been one of like my top ones that I've experienced, because of the profound shift that I was able to experience after. And I just want to share to people, like, you know, this doesn't even have to particularly pertain to what I just shared with you all about my own past with my parents. It can relate to, you know, money, money, calling in love, calling in anything that you want to cultivate in your life, that you want to have, you can kind of unravel and unblock these limiting beliefs that you have that are holding you back. And I just think this work is very powerful if you want to experience that.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. I
Thank you.
appreciate you and value you, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you too.